Hello lovelies, welcome to Narc Free Formula. My name's Freedom. Thank you for joining me today. Today's Talkback Tuesday, and so I'm going to be answering a couple of questions. So if any of you have questions that you want me to answer, pop them in the comments and I'll get back to them next Tuesday. Alright, so my first question is from Debbie, and I'm just going to paraphrase it because I don't have the question in front of me, but Debbie was basically asking about how narcs react to trauma, how narcissists react to trauma. And in particular, she mentioned that her ex-narcissist had experienced a child dying at birth. Now, this is a tricky one. Let's just take all emotionality out of what I just said. And let's just get back to the basics. Firstly, look, narcissists say a lot of things, and a lot of the things that narcissists say are not necessarily true. So when they're telling you sob stories, when they're telling you about these things that have happened to them, they may or may not be true. So unless you can kind of quantify and find out from a second, more reliable source whether or not it's actually true, you know, I would just err on the side of caution when it comes to believing anything they say. Anyhow, so, I mean, because more often than not, you know, maybe that exact experience happened to their neighbour and they saw how much sympathy that person got from it. Anyhow, like I said, let's just forget about that particular example, but let's just talk about the concept of trauma in the first place. So narcissists live in an alternative reality, an alternate reality to us all. I mean, we all have our own version of reality, obviously, but with the narcissist, you know, theirs is quite extreme. And one of the main ways they respond to things that are outside of their control is to remove themselves from it and rewrite it. So just for example, you know, when we say trauma, I mean, it could be something like the loss of a child, it could be the loss of a relationship, it could be, you know, experiencing, I don't know, a natural disaster, for example. Narcissists and psychopaths have slightly differing kind of ways they deal with things, but the psychopaths in particular are quite removed, I suppose, probably the word I'm looking for, removed from, you know, they don't get scared by things. They're not, even though they have fears, they don't get scared by things. They, I don't know, look, I don't want to talk about my ex, but I just keep thinking of stories that I could tell to explain what I'm trying to say, but I'm not going to, because I think that's just a bad habit and I'm just going to have to get myself out of it. But anyhow, so let's just get back to this. So yes, they kind of, they detach themselves from the experience while it's occurring, I suppose. They always seek to gain the most sympathy and attention they can get from it. So they use it to source fuel, essentially, to gather fuel from whoever offers it up, whether it's in the form of sympathy or attention or acknowledgement or whatever it is. If it's in regards to the trauma of, you know, a relationship breaking down or a divorce, so they will, once again, detach. They self-soothe. This is the other thing. So they self-soothe by, you know, distracting themselves, by finding more interesting and enjoyable things to think about, to focus on. And as I said, the more time and space they have away from the traumatic event, the more they rewrite the narrative. They re-script the narrative. They tell the story of what happened slightly different. And then over time, in their own mind, it actually becomes how they've imagined it, how they've visioned it. how they've told it. So, so a delusional rewriting of the narrative. Actually, something that, Sam Vaknin pointed out, and I thought it was interesting, was he refers it as the antisocial solution. And this is a real thing. I mean, sometimes narcissists and psychopaths respond to trauma by becoming antisocial, so becoming, criminal, kind of engaging in reckless behaviours, putting themselves and others at risk, breaking laws. It makes them feel more powerful. So when their world is out of control, it makes them feel really powerful when they, for example, knowingly deceive and rip off a good person. When they do these things intentionally, that makes them feel good because it makes them feel in power, in control, as though no one can touch them, as though I don't care about anyone or anything. I just do what I want, essentially. So, I mean, to summarize all of that, obviously none of this is healthy behaviors. And in part, I think is part of this is that narcissists don't deal with their traumas, they don't deal with hurt, they don't deal with anything the way we should, so they just kind of, seal it up in a little box to think about it another day, which, that can be helpful and healthy at times to do that. But as a long-term life strategy for dealing with problems and, trauma, it's not healthy. All right, but we all know they're not healthy. All right, so my next question was from my darling girl, Tanya, who wants to know what she should prepare herself for when the court order ends. And look, I am in a similar situation. I have a court order in place. I had a 3-year order in place, and it is due to expire relatively soon. Too soon, it seems. But anyhow, and so, look, what I'm doing is, firstly, I'm, preparing myself. So I'm ready. So I'm prepared for the worst, praying for the best. And when I mean prepare for the worst, in your mind, think through, what if he was to come here to my house here today? What would I do? So you want to do some practical stuff. You want to look at how can you make your home and your environment and your workspace and your car or wherever you go, whatever you do, how can you make that all safer? So if you are in a country where you can get gun licenses and weapons and you feel more confident, having that, do that. If you're not, like in Australia, we're not allowed to carry weapons, but there's a whole lot of different ways that you can make yourself feel safer, whether it's through, martial arts, or literally making your home, a safe and a well-protected fortress. Get all of your locks and windows and doors, get it all cleared up, locked up, so you can literally lock it down if you need to, and have other little things in place. Have a knife by the bed head or under the bed. Just things like, if it was to happen, you don't want it to happen, but you want to know if it does happen that you'll be prepared. And this is the other thing, actually, is you do need to be resilient and prepared for worst case scenario, and you need to get your head in the right space. So you need to accept that, if worst case happened and he came here with the intent of doing me harm and I couldn't talk my way out of it, if push comes to shove and it's going to be one of us that dies that day, it's going to be him. Okay, you need to get your head around that, because I just think about Shanann Wilson. I think about all these women that end up dying at the hands of their partners, and maybe it's just because they didn't have that psychological advantage. Maybe because they just kept thinking, no, it's not going to happen. And maybe if they had accepted that there is a potentiality that it could happen, and I'm prepared to kill him before I be killed by him. And I know that that sounds really extreme and quite terrifying even, but it's better to at least have thought it through, and as I said, and got your head in the right space where you are not going to die at the hands of your ex. So prepare for the worst, pray for the best. I mean, the other thing is also, you know, he may do the old kind of come bearing gifts, or come as a friend, not foe. Now, you need to remember that this is just another mask. This is just another false construct. The narcissist is what lies underneath. Okay, they're just putting on a, you know, literally it's putting on another personality, putting on a different mask. You know, imagine them like dressed up in a wig, dressed up, disguised as another person. Right? If you imagine it like that in your mind, you can see it's almost comical. But the thing is, that is who it is. Remember, it's still the same person underneath. They're just acting differently. They've just put on this different character, thinking that they can use that character to get close to you again. Because if he doesn't have supply, and if there's something that you have that he wants, and that could just be your grade A supply, you know, he may try and re-emerge in your life. Try and come back and pretend to help you out. Like I said, you know, come and fix your gutters, or, you know, no strings attached. I'm not looking for anything. I know you don't want to, you know, get back together with me, blah, blah, blah. But really, they're just biding their time, because time means nothing to a narcissist. They're just waiting for the right and opportune moment. And they're probably fully taking advantage of you every single time you let them into their home. You might not realize that things are going missing from your home. You might not realize that things are being broken. You might not realize any of the things that they're doing, you know, behind your back as they walk from one room to another once you've let them in their house. I mean, quite seriously, when it comes down to it, once you've broken up with a narcissist, they should never be in your space again. Not in your house, not in your car, not in your personal space again, because they are only ever going to do you harm. You know, whether they do it intentionally or just purely because it's so toxic being around them. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's still harm. So I would definitely, as I said, prepare for physical safety, lock the house down, think through your plans. I would also just get your head in the game. So when he turns up, and he's acting all like, you know, he couldn't hurt a fly, and he's so sorry, and he's learnt so much, and he never realized, you know, what it was. He never realized how much he loved you until he lost you, and he can't believe that he almost lost you, and that he'll show you, like he's going to promise, I'll show you how different I am, and, you know, I've learned, like I've really learnt this time, like, my God, I almost lost you. You know, he'll tell you everything you want to hear. So you can't even give them a foot in the door. So literally, darling girl, be prepared. The second you see his face on the horizon, right, you either shut the door or you say, leave, I don't want to talk to you ever again. Just slam the door. Let it be known that if you need to, you will call the police again. Because once they know that you're serious, and they know it's going to be hard to get your fuel supply back, then they're not going to try as much. Because remember, path of least resistance. You know, they're always going to go what's to the easiest, whatever's easiest. So, for example, so they could stand on your front doorstep trying to get you to give them attention. Or they could just go to the pub and talk to some half-drunk chick. That could be just as fun too. You know, that's probably easier. Yeah, I might just go to the pub. Right? Always remember this. They take the path of least resistance. So put things in their path that makes it hard for them. Don't make it easy. Don't open the door when he turns up. Don't just start talking to him because you accidentally run into him on the street. And be prepared for that, because that's another thing they do. You know, they're not going to necessarily turn up on your doorstep, but when you're walking out, you know, the street, the supermarket, the cafe, whatever, oh, look who you run into. Accidentally, on purpose. So, as I said, they're all individuals, and yet they all run along these same same lines of behavior. You know, it's their programming. So yes, just prepare for the return of the drama, but it won't be drama. Like when he comes back, he's not going to be drama at first. But when you reject him again, it could cause drama. So be prepared for another battle. Because remember, there's only a couple of times that you're going to have to do this before they finally realize that you're serious. And I don't think that yours will want to risk going back to jail, or going to jail, sorry. And therein lies your power. Okay. And as I said, don't even think twice. If you need to get another intervention order, if he comes around, and start documenting every single time he comes around, every note he leaves on the car, every time you just happen to see him down at the supermarket, right? Make sure you document this stuff, because this is the pattern of behavior that then you will go to the court and get yourself another court order. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. As I said, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and if you put enough kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, come on, brain. If you make it hard for him to get to you, he will go somewhere else for his supply. All right, lovelies, thank you for listening. And what else? If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them next Tuesday. I hope that helps. And if anyone wants a one-on-one consult with me, the link is in the description box.